And now I'm talking to Bernie Wright, the press officer for the Alliance of Animal Rights. Bernie, how's it going? Bernie, before we talk about the register you were hoping is brought in, could you tell me a bit about yourself first? Could you tell me how you got involved in animal rights, and could you tell me about your work in general in Ireland today, please, when it comes to animal rights?
Well, I'm involved in animal rights since the 80s, and before that I sort of always cared about animals. I didn't come from an animal rights background. My mother actually worked in a butcher's, and I lived beside Donnelly Slaughterhouse down in the Coombe. So even at that stage I felt when the pigs escaped they were free, but that wasn't the case. So anyway, when I came across a table for the Alliance for Animal Rights in Westmoreland Street back in the 80s, I joined up, and I realised then this was the way I should be, really, which is we promoted a vegan ethic, and moral baseline would be veganism. So the majority of us would be vegan, if not when we come into it, when we see what the situation is. If you care about animals, it's hard to ignore.
And you're involved with a few different kind of animal rights organisations, aren't you? And you have your own animal refuge, don't you?
Yeah, I run dog rescue, and I've been rescuing greyhounds a long time, although for the last year I had to go back to work for financial reasons. So as well as that, we have a website called the Animal Crimes Register, where I'm trying to compile the people who have been cruel to animals and have been prosecuted, and just the extent of the cruelty here in Ireland.
We'll talk about that again in a minute. You're a very busy person. You've been in the media several times at least, haven't you? Could you tell me what media you were on?
Well, I mean, I've done a good bit of television and that over the years. Although things have changed with the event of the internet, it got harder actually to get a bit of press. So we're still at it anyway, in a different way. We use, I suppose, Facebook for a lot of events and things like that. So it just has changed, but we're all still doing the same campaigns and things, despite a few successes, but it's a hard slog.
Yeah, do you want to talk any more about the register you have? I was going to ask you, what's the background to the campaign?
Right, the background to the register is a lot of people are prosecuted, and they could be living next door to you and you wouldn't know. It's similar to a child abuse register, only it's an animal abuse register. And in my books, it's more or less the same thing. If you abuse children or animals or elderly, they're vulnerable. So, you don't do it. But people need to know who these people are, because a lot of them are getting off without any prosecutions, with very low sentences, with things being, what would you say, they get 4 years and they might do 6 months, you know what I mean? The law is a bit of an ass in my mind. It's not fair and it's not consistent.
Yeah, is there a register of animal rights, animal abusers in any other countries, do you know?
There is. There are a lot of states in America have adopted them. I think the first one was Tennessee, but there's one in New York, there's Florida. I looked it up, there are a lot. And different countries are adopting them too, because I think it's only fair that these people should more or less be outed, because they're not banned from keeping animals, so they can do the same thing again next week.
Yeah, and you mentioned there you have a website as part of this campaign. Is it true that you're working on this specific campaign for a good few years? I
am. I'm working since the late 90s on this project. You could say I have saved all the cuttings out of the papers at the time when there was no internet. The problem is it has gone mammoth, because I have boxes and boxes of stuff to be actually put up on the internet site, or at least typed into a way that the person that's doing the site could just take it off a disc and put it up. So that's why I had a post up there last week. I'm looking for help, some people to volunteer that would sort of respect and agree with this project to give me a hand out with it. Because there's so much. I have one person that I more or less paid to do the actual work, but it's going too slow. The amount of crime that's going on against animals is overtaken the work that's going up on this. So if you look at the site, it's cross-referenced by type of animal, type of abuse, date, county. It's for all the counties in Ireland.
Yeah, we talk about that in a couple of minutes. Talk more about you're looking for help on the website. Have you been in contact with? I presume you have now, but have you been in contact with many politicians about this campaign? And could you let us know a bit about the feedback you get from them?
Well, not so much with politicians on this. This is just sort of more or less going ahead. I have spoken to the guards, all right, and they don't have a problem with it. And they confirmed what I thought, that there isn't a register of people who commit offences against animals. So they were sort of in agreement with it. There was no opposition whatsoever. So, I mean, I'm going ahead with it. It's not illegal or anything. I'm just reprinting stuff that's probably been published elsewhere.
Yeah. If this register is going to become official in Ireland, though, will it be like politicians that have to enact it in the Dáil, or is it a matter just for a Garda Síochána?
Well, personally, I think the government should have one in the first place, like in some of the states in America. I think it's government financed and that, and very official. It's a bit like the child abuse register, and I think there should be one like that. It shouldn't be left to an individual to do, but there isn't one, so I'm trying to fill the gap here and have at least something that people can refer to when the same situation for a different animal happens again. They can look back how many times a crime has happened. Is it the same people doing it? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? So there's all that analysis to be done as well, because I've worked at market research for a while. There would be a lot of analysis to be done to come to a conclusion, and it's ongoing. There isn't an end to it. As long as we're here and we still have animals, there will be another year to be added onto the register.
Yeah, Francis Fitzgerald is the Minister for Justice, so when I have the podcast done of this interview, I'll tweet her on Twitter, with the podcast. How would you describe the political party's credibility in Ireland on animal rights?
Well, on animal issues, their history isn't that good. The last substantial, you could say, success, I suppose, we got, even though it didn't turn into one, was when the Greens were in 2010. We got the ban. We got a complete ban against the Ward Union stag hunt, which is the only stag hunt in Ireland. It's a stag hunt where they follow on horseback. They bring the stag with them and they release it in front of the hounds. That has been going on way back, including 11 years where they had no licence even to do it. They carried on. So, true to form, the Ward Union are still out twice a week hunting. The stag is brought out with them, and the pack of hounds are brought out with them as well. They're just totally ignoring the law. So the actual ban had a loophole where you could go out with 2 hounds, and they're using that loophole to bring out the whole pack.
Yeah, and I was talking to Declan Bones a couple of times, firstly on behalf of his vegan organisation Vigo, then I was talking to him on behalf of the Dublin Meat Hunt Saboteurs, and he was telling me, like, I already knew, but in Britain, England, Scotland and Wales, I don't know about Northern Ireland now, but fox hunting is officially illegal, but the police aren't implementing it, and there are loads of fox hunts, aren't there, in Britain and Northern Ireland?
Yeah, it's the very same as here. Well, here the fox hunters don't need a licence because the fox, unfortunately, is not protected at all. They don't need a licence, they can just go out. We have about 300 fox hunts here, all over the country, and they're out 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So it's very hard to stop them. They would need custodial sentences, I'd say, to prosecute them if a law is brought in, because that's the only thing that's going to work. These people are bloodthirsty and they just love what they're doing. So it's very hard to stop that.
Okay, as you said there a couple of minutes ago, I understand you're looking for help from other animal lovers about this campaign for the register. Could you tell our listeners a bit more information about how they can help you, and if there's anything else you want to say, and could you give out your contact details if anyone wants to get in touch with you or your organisation?
Yeah, sure, Darren. The first thing I would like to say that you haven't asked me about is how individuals listening to this can say, well, God, what can I do? Normal, ordinary people, which would form the majority. I think really what you have to do is research up the whole issue of our use of animals, mainly, which affects most people, is the meat issue and the fact that we use them as food. They're not food. They're individual beings with thoughts and pains and aches and families and everything else. And to them, I'm sure if they could put a name on it, we're like the Nazis, treated the Jews back during the Holocaust. It's the same thing that we're doing to animals. But people stick their head in the sand. They go up and look at the animals in the zoo, for example, as well, and think they're all happy as Larry. They're not. A lot of them have been snatched from the wilds. A lot of them have never had freedom. It's basically jail. It's jail for animals. As well as that, the main, I suppose, that would encompass the most animals here in Ireland probably would be the meat industry. So I would say to somebody, you don't need meat. You don't need it for health. In fact, it's bad for you. So if you do care about animals, everybody loves the dog that's sitting at the floor and giving them company. But the dog outside, or the dog in China that's been eaten, or the greyhounds that we have here that are now being sent by the Irish Greyhound Board to China and being boiled alive on the streets in China when they can't run. I mean, you have to look at everything you do that relates to animals. You're probably wearing leather shoes. You don't think about it. You just go in and buy them. There's plenty of shoes you can buy that aren't leather and that haven't caused a death to provide comfort for your feet. There is a load of issues, and when it comes down to products tested on animals, that's another one. Then there's your clothes. You don't wear fur. And I mean, sports. I mean, like the hunting. The greyhound race and the horse racing is horrific as regards deaths. And buying an animal for your kid, and then the kid forgets about it in 2 weeks' time, and the dog is left out the back with no company, no shelter, maybe no food and water. All of this needs to be addressed, and everybody has to look to themselves to see what they do that cause suffering to another being. So that would be the main thing I'd say. As regards the Animal Crime Register, which is the website with the prosecutions on it, as regards that, really what I need is somebody to help me maybe type up stuff. I have a lot of paper cuttings that need to be compiled and condensed into a smaller form. And also, it's not that simple because a lot of cases are adjourned. And I need somebody to do a bit of searching back, that they would find what happened when the court date came up again. What was the actual end of it? And that's another... It's another problem for what I'm doing. It makes it a bigger job, It's not that simple. There's a lot of work involved, and I can't keep up with it myself because, as I said, I do work part-time. And I have a lot of animals, so it's time,
Yeah, could you just, before you go, tell us a bit about your animal centre you have?
Well, at the moment, I just have a few dogs and I have a rescued horse. I'm not taking in dogs at the moment because what happened was I took a lot of dogs out of a dog pound that was closing and ran into a bit of trouble financially and ended up having to pay for it myself and that. So I just need to get myself back on track as regards finance, so I'll be working for another while and then I'll get back full-time like I was to animal rights because I was self-employed at the time and it was easier to do, say, like an interview like today with you. I had more time and free time and I could do what I like. So I will be back there probably by the end of the year with more time to put into this because I feel bad that I can't do as much as I used to.
You said there, like, looking at we have to look at the national and the global picture as regards animal rights and all the different ways animals are killed and mistreated. Like, if you look at just the national picture in Ireland, say, just thinking of as you're saying, the people getting dogs and cats, or say dogs, and they're not looking after them properly. Like, the amount of people that I know personally that have dogs, they just don't bring them out, or bring them out very rarely. Like, they need to be exercised twice a day. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think it's just unbelievable how you could do that. How you could leave a dog in the backyard and rarely bring him out. It's tragic, isn't it?
You see, a lot of it is culture, and it's what your mother did. You know what I mean? Thankfully, I was able to break the mould, and I, from a household that sort of had an awful lot of meat brought in, I always felt something was wrong, but the way you can, something at times you can't put your finger on it, but that was it. I got to the bottom of how I really feel, and this is how I am. I'm vegan since the 80s now. And it's no big deal. I mean, anybody can be vegan. It's just a matter of either cutting out the products and getting there eventually, or going sort of cold turkey and just cutting out everything on a certain day you decide to do it. But either way, it's no big deal, and it's no big sacrifice either, because I mean, you feel better. I mean, I'm not that young now either. I'm 64, so I mean, I feel the better of it. And a lot of vegans I know are quite healthy, and hopefully it stays that way. We all have to go sometime, but it won't be from eating meat. But I think people should look to themselves and stop maybe going out and giving out about somebody up the road who's doing something while you're on the way back from the supermarket with a piece of a pig in your trolley. You know, look at what you're doing yourself, and forget about other people, and just get yourself right, and maybe if you have a conscience, like, listen to it, and don't have these animals killed for your sake. There's a lot of stuff happening on farms and everything. Meat is horrific. The whole production of meat is horrific. The young animals are taken away from their mothers. They don't even get to suckle their mothers now, because the Irish are bringing in these things that go on the noses of calves with spikes that stop them from suckling from their mothers. I mean, the whole thing is so sad. And then they're brought to the slaughterhouse, and on some of the videos you can see cattle going through the slaughterhouses, and one of them gives birth on the slaughterhouse floor, and the mother is taken away, and I don't know what happens to the calf, you know. But I mean, even here, a lot of the calves end up in veal crates because they're males. Veal crate is veal is a meat that's produced from calves that are kept in the dark and fed on just a liquid diet and never allowed out of a crate. So a lot of these different meats that are coming in now, maybe with the influx of immigrants and that, there's different meats showing up on the shelves in Aldi and Lidl and that. But we can't throw stones at other nationalities. We have all our own problems here. And people should just look to themselves rather than giving out about the woman up the road that's bringing the dog out without a lead or something. Go and look at what's in your fridge.
Okay, if there's anything else you want to say, just go ahead and say it. And could you give us the contact details of the organisation, your campaign for the register, and your animal refuge website, please?
Well, the Alliance for Animal Rights can be contacted at box 4734 Dublin 1. And my phone number is 087 265 1720. And what else was it? The animalcrimesregister.org is the register of abusers, insofar as what we have done. We have a lot up, but there's 10 times more to go up. So that's the one I need a bit of help with. As regards the dog rescue, that's the website, and you have a Facebook page as well, don't you? Yeah, there's a Facebook page, Animal Crimes Register, and there's a Facebook page for the Alliance for Animal Rights as well. Our site is under reconstruction at the moment because, again, lack of help and sort of lack of finances. So we would always welcome any input as regards a few bob too, because everything sort of costs money. Even a banner for a demo, you know, if we get a decent one, is 140 quid. So we just keep it going, and we will keep it going anyway. But donations are always welcome if you make it out to the Alliance for Animal Rights. And the website you have for the animal registry, animal offenders registry, if people want to do a Google search, what was the search? Well, it comes up fairly quick, and it seemed to have gone onto Google under different sections. So animalcrimesregister.org will bring it up. All right. And finally, do you want to give your... do you have a website, do you, for your own animal refuge? Well, I have a website for dog rescue, but at the moment there's not much going up on it. It's just stationary. But if anybody needs help with dogs, I'll put them in the right direction. I'm just doing a bit now in conjunction with my part-time work. So I will get back to all that soon. Okay, Bernie, you're a very busy person. It's great talking to you. I'll be talking to you again, right? Thanks. Great. Thanks, Darren, for giving me a shout. Okay.